Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for September, because we're not doing the good days of the week anymore, because it's not funny. Joining me today is a gentleman who he contacted me like a long time ago and said, I've got a game coming out. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he sent me some pictures of the artwork, and then I was like, oh, okay. This looks really nice. It's a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Falger. And Jeremy Falger is part of Jade Studios. And they are designing a game called Untamed, which they're going to be bringing out to Kickstarter in the near future. So he's come on tonight to, do the usual. Tell us a little bit about himself. Tell us a little bit about his game. And we can talk about this fantastic artwork as well. So, hello, Jeremy. Thank you very much for coming on.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
No, it's been good. It's been good. As I say, when we originally spoke, you'd sent some samples of some of the artwork, and I think I fell head over heels in love with a chameleon. I just said, send me a picture of this, and I'm not going to put it in the show notes, guys. You're just going to have to visit the website and follow along with the campaign to find out. But I guess we should do the admin first of all. The reason that we do this is there's quite simply we want to do it for you. It's been 200 episodes. It's been about us far too long now, so it's all about you guys out there. Who are listening along and supporting the show and just being fantastic and wonderful and getting us where we want to be. The second reason that we do this is because, as I say, Jeremy kind of pinged us an email at magic@we'renotwizards. We had a conversation. We've both been busy, and then we said, right, let's get this done. Let's do this. And here we are doing this. So are you well, sir, first of all? I know you're very busy all the time, but
I'm well. The S is like around the corner, and we're working very hard to prep that, and a lot of cool art coming in, and everything is very busy but very good.
No, that's good. That's good. One of the things we like to do on the show is we like to find out a little bit more about the kind of the people behind the projects, the people behind the games. So we like to have a little bit of a kind of, I guess, a kind of dip back into the past. We like to look at the crocodile of the present before we look into that stunning chameleon of the future.
This sounds good. I like crocodiles. We have crocodiles.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about your history? Kind of how you how you got involved in kind of the hobby, first of all, I guess.
Right. So, I've always been a gamer, I guess, but we got a Super Nintendo way back then, and then that was the end of me ever playing outside or being outside. So, great move, parents. But no, like literally. But
What's your favorite game, the Super Nintendo? Because I'm a child of the Super Nintendo as well. So.
Yeah, right. I mean, probably one of the best consoles ever made. I would say Zelda: Link to the Past.
Yep.
I mean, I actually couldn't really finish it at the time, so we had our babysitter always play it for us, but it still felt like we were doing it. So because I think we were slightly too young or whatever. But
you've made me feel really old, because I started playing the Super Nintendo when I was about 16.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good times. Still a very, very good console, and it's still one of the ones that everybody's kind of looking to kind of emulate. Did you get yourself a Super Nintendo mini console then when they came out? Did you go and buy one? The little tiny ones that came out.
Oh, the new one. Yeah. My friend bought it, so I don't have to buy it. So I'm just he was like, oh yeah, I bought this thing. I was like, oh wow, that's super cool, and I was more enthusiastic about it than he actually was. He just sort of bought it on a whim. I was like, yeah, dude, I can
good thing about
your hands for a while.
Well, it's quite it's quite small as well, so it could quite easily be hid under a jacket or fall into a back pocket, and you could just say, and you could say, I lost my mini Super Nintendo, and it's like I have no idea where that went. You know, what's that behind your ear, Jeremy? It might just be a Super Nintendo.
Exactly.
But so did you jump from the Super Nintendo? Did you stay with Nintendo then, or did you go PlayStation wise, or did you stay on the kind of the GameCube N64 route, or?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we definitely stayed on the Nintendo route. I think we owned everything up till the Wii, and then I don't own a TV at the moment, so I also don't really have that much use for a console. But maybe one day. But I was a Nintendo kid, and then one day. One of my mom's friends came to visit, and she just brought us a present, and it was the game Caesar and Cleopatra.
Oh yeah.
And like one of the old 2-player Cosmos games, and I don't know, I just devoured it. I think we played it like 10 times on the day we got it, and then another 10 times in the following weekend. And of course, it had like a little booklet in it, like a little. A catalog of all the other games they were making in Holland, or like the company was localizing. They were mostly like German Euro games and stuff. But I just started buying all of those, and I became obsessed. And
that was your fall from grace. I mean, you don't need a TV if you've got cardboard. Let's face it.
Exactly. And it's like something just appealed to me, like because we'd always play like the classics and of course, like the Monopoly and the Rummy Cub and all of that stuff. And we would spend many rainy days in our caravan in Luxembourg with the family because it always rained in that place, so we were stuck playing board games. But at a certain, At a certain point, you're, I don't know, done just rolling and moving. And then, the Caesar and Cleopatra, and I think the Settlers of Catan card game followed after that. I was like, wow, there's so much cool stuff going on. So, I became obsessed.
Has your collection kind of grown over the years? I mean, are you one of the guys that has like, if you turned around behind you, do you have like shelves and shelves full of board games, or have you managed to? Because when you first we first connected on Skype, there was obviously your lovely face with your beard and stuff, but I couldn't see kind of enough behind you. So, do you have the shelves?
Oh yes,
and are they full? Yeah.
I was sitting if I would have been at a 90-degree angle the other way, you would have seen my shelf. Although at the moment, the shelving space is slightly at a premium because the city in Holland I'm living in is it's not cheap, so we don't have many shelves. I have most of my collection in my dad's place.
All right, okay.
My whole room there is basically just my game storage, and he always breaks his neck when he has to go in there for something because he's falling over like an old copy of something. I bought an S in like 15 years ago or something.
Is it like one of those walk-in wardrobes that you see on the kind of the films, except you've not got like a rack of suits or a rack of shirts or like drawers of cufflinks? It's just like, well, here's my Catan, here's my Carcassonne, I've got my Star Wars X-wing over here. This is where I collect my catacombs. I've got my Forge War up here, and here's the box for the Gloomhaven season. I've got seasons 1 and 2 of Gloomhaven, and then I also have three ties that I keep. What's that? That's just in case I have meetings to kind of get my hobby. But I do use them to dust the board games when I'm not kind of using them. So, do you share the shelves at the moment then with kind of like the flatmates? Then is there shelf wars? Between you has
sort of, but I'm slowly, slowly and surely. I just put a game on, another game on there. every month or so, and then slowly I just take another shelf, and then soon it'll all be mine.
It's like slowly, one by one, the sign. Where's my signed copy of my Harry Potter books gone? It's like I've no idea at all.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sorry.
Exactly.
Why is there Pandemic Legacy there instead? Because it's a better story than Harry Potter. Yes, I went there. Come at me, internet, with your fire.
It's a good thing I'm wearing
anyway.
headphones. I think my girlfriend would kill me if she said Pandemic Legacy has a better story than Harry Potter. I'm looking at her now. She has a very strange look on her face.
Well, at this moment, I am glad that you're at least a plane flight away.
Right, yeah, definitely.
I do know there's regular flights between Amsterdam airport and Edinburgh, so you're not that far away if she got really, really angry. But all I'll just say is get over it. It's one of these things. We'll see what happens. We'll see what lasts longer, Pandemic Legacy or Harry Potter. I'm willing to place a bet. So, you're obviously building up the collection. You're getting really, really involved in the hobby. Did you go to like game clubs and things like that when you were, as your collection kind of grew?
Yeah, I was going to some game clubs, but they were like halfway across the country. And even though Holland is not such a big country, it was still like a 3-hour drive. And because I went to this, so sorry, I should start by the beginning. Like soon after I started playing, I also started designing, and then,
all right,
rosy-glassed little 14-year-old kid as I just started sending prototypes to like random publishers. And so I sent my first prototype. It was like a bidding game with mice and cats, and you would bid like sleep, because catching mice as a cat is a big ordeal, and so you would bid with hours of sleep to catch the mice, but then your cat would have to sit out a few rounds in order to sleep, and only then you would get your cat back, basically. So I don't know, it was probably not the best design, but at the time I of course thought it was amazing. So I was just sending it to random publishers, and one publisher, Ravensburg, or the Dutch company headquarters. Yeah, they replied with a very sort of nice email, and they said, well, this looks sort of interesting, but maybe we should play test it first with our normal group. And it turned out to be like a game club all the way up, for me in the north, because I was all the way in the south of Holland, basically in Belgium. But my dad, he agreed to drive me 3 hours north one way to test this game of mine with these guys from the game club who I've never seen before. And they turned out to be, even though they were like twice my age, they turned out to be super nice. And then they, after that, they proceeded to destroy my game. But that was fine. I made some nice friends. So then I spent most of my teenage years in a train going up north to just play games on the weekends.
All right. Cool. What was the game called then?
It was called Cats with a lot of Z's at the end.
And have you thought about reworking it then? I mean, I know obviously time is a great healer, but have you looked at it now and went, oh, that's actually quite bad? Or have you looked at it and went, actually, if I added that, or did you say, well, actually, Richard, yeah, I reworked it and it's now the new game Untamed that we're doing, so back off.
No, that's a good question. Yeah, sometimes in the wardrobe games closet that is now my room at my dad's house, I find some old prototypes, like stuck under a copy of Catan or whatever, and then I sort of don't remember this, but I should take a look at it again, and I'm sure I have all the rules and stuff somewhere, but actually for that particular game, I've been thinking about it on and off about how I could rework that into something a little bit more playable. But yeah, it's
More playable.
yeah.
What's it like getting feedback, kind of traveling all that way up for like 3 hours? And our listeners in America are going, I travel 3 hours to work every day.
Right.
That's nothing.
Right.
Tell him to dry his eyes and get on with it. But what's it like kind of playtesting for the first time and somebody kind of sitting down and kind of giving you believe obviously in the product, because otherwise you wouldn't have bothered kind of letting it get playtested in the first place. Was that quite a hard or tough experience for you at that time?
Yeah, I just remember it being a very pleasant experience. Also, just because they were so nice, and they had like this ginormous attic filled with board games, right? So I was just drooling in that attic for like the first hour, and then I came here to play something. All right, so to play test the game. But they were all very nice, and even though they ripped it apart and burned it and ripped it to shreds, I think
buried it in the ground and covered it with salt.
Yeah. I think it was a very positive experience, just because I just learned so much from it, and I got. Yeah, it was my first forays into game design, and it just pushed me to become better and try more things, and the whole go down the whole road of designing a game that actually works.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was confronting, but it was fun, I think. Yeah.
When you're designing a game, from a language point of view, do you design the game in English, or is that the primary language that you design in, or do you design it in kind of like Dutch first or German first, and then kind of translate it into English for when you're kind of doing further work down the line? Because we've spoken. The reason I'm asking is we've
Mm-hmm.
spoken to. I spoke to a few kind of European-based designers, and it seems to be the case that English seems to be one of the, obviously German's there, right up there, obviously with the center, but English seems to be kind of almost like a big language that most games seem to be kind of made in kind of produced. But for your kind of working, is there any language you kind of start off in, or do you work in English because it's easier, because that'll be for things like Kickstarter, that'll be the main language you would expect, or?
Yeah, I mainly I only work in English, but that's also because I was raised bilingually. I'm half American and half Dutch, right? So my mom my mom's from New York, and she just raised me bilingually. So like designing and thinking in English is just as basically second nature for me. So I never actually thought about doing it in Dutch, because who wants to buy a Dutch game in Dutch, except for a few Dutch people. So no, yeah.
There might be a multi-million euro market that you're just throwing away. There might be.
Okay.
Or maybe not. I don't know. Yeah. As I say, it's just interesting, because I've been speaking to a few kind of designers who, obviously in the UK it's like, well, some of the people I speak to, they're lucky if they can speak any English at all, and they're kind of in the UK. Right. Myself included, us Scottish people, bless us. But it's just kind of we've been speaking a little bit about kind of like translations and things like that. So it's just to see kind of where you kind of stepped off the mark. Yeah. So you go playtesting.
Mm-hmm.
You, as you say, Cats was maybe could have done a bit better than you thought you did. Where did you go next? What did you do next?
Well, then I designed a few more crappy games, and they also got destroyed. And then I started studying, and my interest turned into student stuff. So I think I probably took a break from like gaming in general for about 5 years or something, and I got all the
Right.
the wild young man hormone stuff out of my system, right? And then I discovered that all of my friends who had been drinking loads with me and partying till way too late into the night in the morning, they actually also turned out, oh yeah, I like Magic the Gathering. Oh yeah, I like Settlers of Catan, right? So I was like, all right, oh yeah, I forgot about that part of my past, and then I dove right back in.
It's like my guilty secrets. It's like, what's that in your cupboard? It's a bag full of board games. It's like, oh, I'm so... those are someone else's. I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah. It just wasn't in my mind, There was I moved out and started living on my own, and doing all the stupid stuff that young people do, and then and then at a certain point you've done all of that, and then you just want to sit down with people but not talk about politics or the weather all the time, so you pull out a board game, right? So yeah.
So your first design game that was then called The Voting Cloud, which was a political kind of weather worker placement. Or did I read that wrong?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I should get on that. I'm just gonna scrap all the chameleons and start making.
No, you can't. You're not allowed to scrap. No, you would break my cold stone heart
Right.
if you turned around and said the chameleons are not happening.
Right.
But I don't know if a weather politics game would actually work. Can you get the most votes before the next kind of
snowstorm?
Before the weather's this next snowstorm or tornado or something like that. Get your votes. Oh no! Here you go. You're the weather gods,
right?
And you're deciding between the weather gods which ones of you is going to be in charge, and you use kind of like different weather powers, and at the end of the day, depending on how you play your weather cards and when you play your weather cards, you kind of accrue favor from the people down below.
Right. Yeah.
So you can help them grow. If you're the rain god, you can play a game that allows you. Oh, this is a real game now.
This is a really good
idea. You could play like a rain card. You could get like a rain card, and you can like help people's crops grow. Or what you could do is, if you're like the god of sun, then you could come along. You could decide, well, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to like really, really shine after that rain card's being played, which means all the crops end up kind of like drying out and getting really, really nasty. But on the other side of it, it helps the guys over there who are growing tomatoes and stuff.
Right.
You have to write this down, Jeremy. Stop the podcast. Let's get game designing.
Right. Because then you could convince the people who are going to vote for the rain god to not to vote for the rain god and just vote for the sun god.
There you go.
You have a very persuasive argument.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you
go. Sweet. This is a really good idea.
Let's write that down and get this going. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, what was your next, your next kind of game? What were you moving on to more complicated mechanics? I mean, I take it as you got back into the game, you were exploring new mechanics anyway, because as time goes on, newer mechanics for board games has kind of come out. So what kind of stuff did you end up kind of working on as time went on?
Yeah. I think once I got back into games, I was like searching for the kind of games that I like to play most, and I had no idea in the beginning what the genre was called or what I was actually looking for. But then I sort of got back or got pulled in or seduced into playing Magic again, I guess, and then it was like, yeah, okay, I really like this kind of game with, more complicated interactions, and, like I can customize all of this stuff. So then I really got into more of the sort of combo battle-based games like Magic and all of the Fantasy Flight game LCGs. I sort of found my genre there. And that was also then the kind of games that I was, starting to become interested in designing. Yeah, I think that's the way to say it. Yeah.
Does that mean that you've ended up collecting quite a few? Because I mean, magic is magic, and you'll be
Right.
people that'll be playing that. So did you dabble into like Netrunner and kind of Ashes, Rise of the Phoenix Born, and kind of Star Realms, and did you start kind of exploring the card kind of genre itself?
Yeah, I think I explored a little bit too much. I now have. I think I can now probably tell you the main mechanics of probably every dead. Well, not every, but loads of dead CCGs and deck building games. And yeah, I also own quite a lot of them at the moment. I never play them. I just own them. Uh,
that's completely acceptable. Do you know what I mean? If somebody said to me, "Well, I collect cars. Do you ever drive them?" No, I'd be like, "That's a bit of a waste of money." But if somebody's got like 15 shelves full of board games, and they say, "How many have you played?" "I've played 5 of them." It's like, that's fine. You're always in good kind of company. Did you collect them to look at the mechanics, to kind of study the mechanics, or was it a case that, hey, I'm just really enjoying buying all these cards?
No, it was definitely more research, I would say. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. I'm just interested in all the different. I mean, I think the cool things about card games is that they're just so versatile, right? I mean, for example, a trick taking game like Wizard is just it just works. It's just fun. It's just straightforward. But you can also do some really weird stuff with card games, and then especially some of the old Decipher CCGs. They used cards as like dice and like multiple ways to use the cards as resources and stuff like that. So that was really cool. And that and I'm also very lazy making prototypes. So just making a game that only had cards. And I just had to, put a piece of paper in a sleeve. That just, that's amazing, because if I have to cut like hex tiles every time, I'm gonna shoot myself really fast. So.
No, I get that. I think that's why a lot of first time creators, but guys that are pushing a project kind of forward into kind of development and then potential publishing. I think the easiest way forward is to go down the kind of the card route. In your journey with CCGs and kind of collecting them, is there any ones that you kind of saw cancelled or finished off and you thought, oh, they were really, really good. If they had hit a bigger audience, they would have really grown kind of really well. Is there any ones that you feel sorry for that kind of like disappeared and are now kind of more difficult to get hold of?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're just talking about Harry Potter, right? But I got the Dead Harry Potter CCG to play with my girlfriend, and it's actually a really good game. It's a shame it's out of print. I mean, I think the design space for it was definitely not very big. Although I might be wrong, but the game itself was super straightforward and super streamlined and a lot of fun. So I got a few boxes of cards online. But yeah, I thought the Harry Potter CCG was really good. And let's see, what else do we have?
You're looking at your shelves now.
Yeah, I am. I don't know. No other dead CCG at the moment just springs to mind, but I do think it's a shame that Fantasy Flight's Warhammer 40K Conquest LCG. Well, it's a mouthful. That got canceled prematurely. I thought that was I don't know, when I played that, like my mind was blown. It's like, oh my god, I have such a feeling of strategic level, but also tactical level play that I've never seen in a game before. So
it was maybe because the name was so long that people kind of gave up asking for it kind of halfway through. When they were like, do you have the Warhammer cut-off? Just, can I have Night Runner, please?
Right.
You know, or can
yeah.
I just have Magic? If you're going to name your card game, make sure it's like really, really small syllables, because if you try to be clever, people will just get, you know, that's why Magic's so popular.
It's
That's
just,
why people just say it's Magic.
Yeah.
I'll have 3 packs of Magic, as opposed to I'll have three packs of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest, this edition, please. You know, that's, people fall asleep. The guy behind the counter was probably had to wake him up a couple of times by the time he asked for a couple of packs.
Yeah, definitely.
But you've, but Jade Owl Studios, it's not, you're actually it's an active kind of day-to-day business doing kind of, I've been on your website, you kind of do like consultancy stuff and things like that. So what kind of things are you kind of doing on a day, you know, obviously we'll talk about Untamed in a second, but what kind of things are you doing on a kind of like a day-to-day basis?
That's it's a bit unclear from our current website. We're gonna redo that. But yeah, so we're doing a lot of serious games, so to say, or maybe applied games is a better word. And so applied games are not just for fun, but they're also attempting to teach the player something about, well, the subject of the game, right? So at the moment we have a game that we made that is being used at a university to train medical students in how influenza outbreaks sort of work, and how all of the organizations involved, you know, what kind of roles they play, because students, they have, you know, medical students have a very sort of limited idea of these types of things, right? I mean, they see the patient in front of them, and, you know, they're going to try to cure that. But in an outbreak situation, there's so much more involved. And the university was interested in trying like a new method of teaching, and gaming, I think, has the power to, you know, convey certain concepts really, really powerfully, and also in a way that, you know, doesn't bore you to death. So,
especially if you've got the flu,
right? Right.
But no, I mean, I think that's interesting. I know of, going back to like Magic the Gathering or any of these, I mean, Star Realms, for instance. I mean, at the beginning, when you're learning a game like Star Realms, you learn the factions, and then you have a base idea of what the factions do. And as time goes on and you learn the card game, you start to learn the mechanics of every individual card and how it has a cause and effect, and the possible paths you can take using sets of cards kind of like together. So I can imagine people playing a game, it's a lot easier to, if you're gamifying something, for people to actually learn kind of patterns and cause and effect and things like that as well. It sounds like a fascinating. I mean, how did you get on to? I mean, did you pitch the idea? Did you have the idea in kind of like in the background, or did somebody approach you and say, "Listen, this is the issue. This is how we're trying to kind of educate people." How would you go about it? I mean, did you, as I say, did you approach them?
No, somebody approached me through LinkedIn, because after I got back into games, I really got back into games. So my master degree basically is game design, that specific track was focused on serious game design, so like applied games and, you know, gamification and all of that. And yeah, somebody just found me on LinkedIn and approached me and said, well, you know, I'm a public health consultant, and I love games, and I believe in the potential for games to make a difference in teaching people something, but I need somebody to make a game. So are you interested? And I was like, yeah, of course. This sounds super cool.
Exactly. So they're like, I'm going to pay you to design a game, and it's like, okay, I'll do that then. So that was it. You're kind of like, you're going into business, so you had to like, well, I better make a business.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting to be a poor, starving game designer, I mean, I'm still starving, but just a little bit less at the moment, and hopefully they'll keep on getting less and less. But yeah, it seemed like a really good opportunity to just learn a lot of stuff. Not just not really make money, just learning how to make games, because there are relatively speaking, a lot of serious games out there, but they all just sort of suck, in my opinion, or most of them just aren't really fun to play because they're just sort of missing that gamey element, right? The element that makes you go, oh yeah, let's do this again or whatever, right? So and I just try to balance that a bit more by conveying the learning goals of the game and mixing them or intertwining them with the mechanics and the narrative of the sort of applied serious games that we're making. And yeah, I think.
Do you find yourself under more control? I mean, look at it this way, right? If I'm guessing with Untamed, I mean, you will take it to playtesting, people will be playing it, and then you'll get feedback. And then based on that feedback, you've got an opportunity to make changes to the game, make changes to the mechanics, if you decide to, if you feel it fits in. With you getting involved in the kind of the academic side of games, is there a lot more control from the guys that are commissioning you on terms of how the game plays and how the game flows? Are you kind of given a set of guidelines that you then have to turn into a game? Is that how that works? And do you have less kind of creative control over what you do with the mechanics and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely more restrictions, right? I mean, they want the game to teach the players this and this and this, right? So that just has to be in the game. There's no option of just like, oh, well, it doesn't work with this card drawing mechanic or whatever. So, yeah, there's definitely restrictions. But it's all, I guess that's the whole challenge, right? Because with a game that you're just designing yourself, you can just keep on going forever and changing it forever without there being any real consequences. And designing within such restrictions, I think, it also breeds a certain kind of creativity, right? But yeah, I mean, creatively, I cannot go make, these two giant robots smashing each other in the face. Because
you can't do like and the flu mutates and turns everybody into zombie flu animals, and they go around infecting everybody, and you get a gun card instead that you can use against these people. I take it you're not allowed to do that.
Exactly. Although I must say that you still get a relatively large amount of freedom, because there's several I think there's several ways of implementing those learning goals, right? And I always try to sort of talk with the people who are commissioning the game and ask what they really want, because sometimes they just don't really know that well. So it's a challenge to find out which of those maybe 10 learning goals that they listed are actually the most important, and then just focus on that, and then we both wind up being happy because that's the thing they really want.
How is it dealing with obviously the person that you're dealing with obviously is aware of games and is therefore that's why they brought you on board. Is it a challenge to deal with people whose exposure to board games is to say, oh, is this like Uno, or is this like, Monopoly, or is this like, do you have to do like an education process on explaining to people what kind of a card game can be as well,
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I mean, it depends on the client. Sometimes they're a bit more familiar, but yeah, I think educating and giving people that literacy, so to say.
Hmm.
It also makes things easier to explain, right? So it's a little bit like Pandemic, or it's a little bit like Settlers of Catan, but instead of getting resources, you get um, cards that help you prevent this disease, or stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, using examples definitely helps, and sometimes you need to just pull out a few games, or show them a few games beforehand, and saying, yeah.
So have you been helping kind of convert kind of people down the kind of the board game path then? I mean, have you given people the board game bug? Are there people coming back to you to say that they've now gone out and they too now have several Kallax shelves full of cardboard?
Um,
Yes.
I'm not sure if I've done that with. I'm not sure if I've done that with the sort of with the serious games. Also, because I don't really see those students when they're playing it, as part of their
Yeah.
curriculum. But yeah, I mean, the one game that's at the university right now. Yeah, they're very enthusiastic about it, but. Yeah, I haven't seen their collection of Kallax shelves yet.
Getting on to kind of Untamed.
Sure.
Now that's, I mean, as I say, chameleon or death, basically. But I mean, with with you doing obviously jobs which are bringing in money.
Mm-hmm.
Has that put pressure on the development route for kind of Untamed itself then? Because I'm guessing that, I mean, obviously, as I say, I've seen, I've read the blurb, I've seen, been on the website, I've looked through a lot of the artwork that you've sent me, which has been kind of fantastic because I am a sucker for art. But have you then had to say, right, okay, listen, I have to put Untamed to one side while we're working on making sure that we're hitting deadlines for the stuff that might actually help to pay for some of Untamed,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. Some of these, all these projects bring in money, which we pump into our passion project, which is Untamed, basically at the moment. So yeah, sometimes you just need to prioritize and put it on the back burner for a little bit, and make sure we get the extra money, which we can then put forward to getting some more cool art. Yeah.
But it's more than, I mean, what's Untamed going to be about? I mean, what's the kind of the core kind of gameplay itself? I mean, are you as far as that? Are you still kind of working through that? I mean, is it a card game? Is it a collectible card game? I mean, what are you kind of aiming for with that?
Right. I mean, so I mentioned I like collectible card games, but I actually realized I also don't have time to build decks at all, like at all. So I like that kind of game. I just don't like the time commitment that it requires up front, and I think it also sort of raises the barrier of entry for other players, maybe people who like to play more Euro games or whatever, right? And they want to try more of a battle game, but then it's all, oh, well, but now I have to build all these decks and buy, loads of these cards, and all of them suck except for this one card, right? So we wanted to sort of create that experience, but then just as a standalone, self-contained experience, right? And of course, there's more of those style of games out there. But we thought very long and hard about sort of the artwork and what do we want that to depict, because I also work in a board game shop, and of course the first thing that I and everybody else does is look at how the game looks, right? And for a lot of people, if they see like this really super hardcore, intense, high fantasy guys duking it out with like zombie limbs flying all over the place and stuff, right? It just doesn't really appeal to I think a large part of the potential people who want to buy your game or who might be interested in your game, right? So we spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, well, we also don't want to offend anybody with like doing all sorts of weird fantasy versions of some sort of culture, although I guess we still have that a little bit in there. But we chose for animals because everybody likes animals, I guess.
Yeah.
And animals just sort of speak to your imagination in a certain way. Like when you were younger, you had all these fairy tales with like the big bad fox and Red Riding Hood and stuff like that, right? So So we definitely chose very carefully to make the game flow around around these animals, right? And the game is the game design is done. We went through loads and loads and loads of iterations, and at some point it was a deck builder, at some point it was this, at some point it was I don't even remember anymore what it was, but
it was a game about weather gods and
right, yeah, definitely. But always the core element was that we wanted to have these animals, these cool looking animals, sort of duking it out in some way or another, right? And what we just ended up on was sort of a sort of collectible card game style game. So where you have your deck up front, you don't have to build it throughout. But you have some level of customization, right? So you're not just buying 2 pre-built decks and that's it. You have some level of customization. So in the end, I was looking at things like Smash Up, right? And where you just build your deck by choosing 2 different factions and then shuffling that together, and boom, there you go, right? And I think for a lot of players, that's the amount of effort and customization they might want and are looking for, and also the only amount of time that I personally have in these kind of games, really. Because I buy all the LCGs, but then I just play the starter decks and that's it, because I don't have time to build decks actually, right? So
exactly.
So I think that sort of shuffle building, how do you call it? There's a fancy word for this, paradigm or something. I don't know. I think that's the sort of thing that we were looking for. And we've built. It's a bit like Hearthstone, which I've sunk way too many hours in as well. But it has that accessibility, while being a little bit more flexible than Hearthstone, I would say. So sorry, that was a very long answer to your very simple question.
That's the best answer, or the ones where I am quiet for 5 minutes and I allow people to kind of talk. I mean, do you think there's a bit of a pressure on accessibility for games nowadays, because there is this kind of thing about, if a game takes 3 games to learn, unless it's really, really quick, you can end up kind of losing the audience. I mean, I'm looking at a number of games on my shelf just now which I haven't played, and that's because when I bring out the rule book is a small Harry Potter novel, basically, and I'm just like, I just can't even kind of look at it. I mean, was the idea behind Untamed to allow people just to get in as quickly and as easily as possible and start playing and get them on to their second game and their third game as quickly as you could?
Yeah, definitely. I think accessibility is super important, because so many new games are released, and people only have a super short attention span anyway, and if they don't get your game on the first go, then I think the chances are pretty slim that they won't give it another shot. And I think that's also sort of a line that at least we walked with, trying to sort of, stick with something that's relatively familiar, right? So sort of and the general flow of like these card battle games, and then trying to sort of like innovate on like smaller areas that don't obstruct these bigger lines. Because we tried to be super original at first, and it gave me loads of headaches. And if it's too much, if it's too out there, unless you're like Dixit or something, um, I personally think that you might be going too far out of people's comfort zones, because people love comfort zones. At least I know I do. So, you want to push the envelope a little bit, but maybe not too much, and just lower the bar of entry of these more well-known tropes, so to say, and just make it more accessible for people. So yeah, I think accessibility, like in general, not only for Untamed, but I think accessibility is super important.
Yeah. No, I've seen it. I've seen it recently. I mean, I was playing. We wrote a kind of a preview for a game called Dice Summoners, and I highlighted quite quickly in the preview that it reminded me an awful lot of like Ashes. Rise of the Phoenixborn,
right,
in terms of the dice mechanics and how you use your dice in order to gain your power and stuff like that. And to me, that meant that game got, a lot of tries and a lot of plays, because I already knew kind of 50%
right.
of how the main mechanics played, and then the rest of it was kind of like a little bit of learning. And that's not to say that, it was so close. It was like the premise was kind of like, it'd be like, say, it was close enough so that it kind of put me, like you said, into like a comfort zone that I knew instantly what I was doing with the core mechanics. And then I just had to learn. I had to learn quite a bit in order to understand the game fully, but I kind of had the base foundation, so that learning additional rules and mechanics on top of that wasn't like a kind of a big kind of stretch. So is it Untamed going to be just card based? Are you going to have is it going to be dice in there? Is it going to be kind of other things in there itself, counters, stuff like that? Because I've seen Legend of the Five Rings quite a few times, and that just looks like it needs its own suitcase to carry it around, based on the amount of different things that you need to kind of bring with that game. It's like it needs a table and a half to kind of play it on. So is Untamed going to be like that? Is it going to be quite small? Is it going to be quite self-contained, or is it going to be kind of like a tiny epic game which needs a new house to play it?
No. We're it's just going to be cards and a few tokens. There's 2 types of tokens, and that's it. So it's just cards and that. And we're also aiming for quite a small box, and like a nice price. I have to figure out and the details on that. But we're aiming for the opposite of a suitcase. So, I guess a fanny pack or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Is it still? Are you still quite far off? Because originally when we spoke, you said, okay, we're looking at probably towards the tail end of the year.
Yeah.
Before we're considering kind of the Kickstarter side of things, is that still the same thing, or are you tripping into kind of like 2019 now in terms of the campaign now?
We're definitely looking at 2019. Yeah, because all of these other projects, they came and they took up some time, and then settling on the final rule set and all of that. It just took more time than we anticipated, and we're very eager to get the game out, right? But it has to be good, and we don't want to rush it. So I would say we're looking at a early 2019 release, probably like the first quarter. Although I don't, if it's going to be second quarter, I won't be that surprised either.
Cool. So, if they want to keep an eye on things, then the best thing to do is, we'll give some links to the people. I have a question though for you, Jeremy. Okay.
Yeah.
You basically cat flu has broken out, the worst kind of cat flu, and what happens is that basically if people are bitten by cats, they turn into zombies, and thus the cat flu gets spread. You are one of the last survivors, and you've made your way by hook and by crook and by bicycle in many ways to the city of Delft, and you happen you're dodging cats left, right, and centre. It's a real place. I've been there. You're dodging cats left, right, and centre, avoiding the bites, but you scoot down an alleyway, and there's an open door, and the cats are getting closer, and you jump into the door. You shut the door behind you, and when you turn around, you find that you have actually ended up in a huge board game emporium.
Yeah.
Now, there's every single type of board game available. There's first editions, there's second editions, there's rare games, there's new games, there's expansions aplenty, and in the middle of the floor, the shop floor, there's a cart, a little kind of trolley that has 4 wheels on it, pneumatic wheels, and it's got a nice strong handle, and you can put your stuff in there. But more importantly, you've got the option to take 3 board games with you.
Right.
Any board games at all, before the cats come in and attack like cats do. Because if cats were frogs, we'd be using flamethrowers against them. I'm just saying. What 3 board games do you take with you, Jeremy? What 3? Any games at all?
So the first game I'm taking is definitely a game from the Project GIF series. It's a series of very abstract games, and even though I could never probably design anything like that, but I think they're just so cool. So I would definitely take one of those. Although choosing which one is probably impossible. I'm looking at Yinch right now, so maybe I would just take Yinch with me.
Okay.
And let's see. I guess I would take. Yeah, I guess I would take Magic, because assuming I'm one of the few people left on Earth, nobody's going to be bothering me about all kinds of deadlines. So I just have plenty of time to build a deck.
No, I mean, any person that you meet, if you ask them if they want to play a game, they're going to be saying yes.
Right,
if that's communities, or whether you meet one person by themselves or you wander into caravans of people, the answer to the question is always going to be yes. I would like to play that lovely board game with you. So are you taking all of Magic with you? That's quite a lot.
That's a lot. Okay, well, maybe not all of it, because I still want room for the last game. So.
Oh, you're always going to have room for the last game.
Okay.
There'll always be room for the last game. It's the rules.
All
What's
right.
the last game, Jeremy?
The last game is probably El Grande.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. I love Wolfgang Kramer's designs, and I think El Grande, after 15 years, because I've owned it for 15 years, I still really, really like it.
Still not played it.
Yeah. There was a gap. There was a good gap of probably about 12 years, definitely. Yeah,
Wow.
but
Wow.
I recently played it, and I still really enjoy it. So yeah.
Excellent. So you pack your games into the cart, trundle off down the road, and go into the distance with the cats screaming in terror. If people want to keep an eye on you on the interweb nets, where can we find you on the interweb nets, Jeremy?
That's a good question. We're very active on Instagram. So our Jade Owl Instagram is just Jade Owl Studios, we're very active there. I used to be active on Twitter, but a little bit less so now. But you can find me on Twitter either under the Jade Owl Studios handle or under my own personal handle, which is Card B Conspiracy.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. People are going to think you're a Cardi B fan. You're gonna get some heat from the Nicki Minaj
right.
crowd.
It's short for cardboard conspiracy, but Twitter just cuts off the last
Twitter's
thing.
just gonna cut it off. You're gonna end up with Nicki Minaj fans all over you with that Cardi B thing going on. People are gonna think, what you doing? Oh, you picked your side, have you? That's it. Where else can we find you?
Well, don't look at our website right now. Just look at our website, like in a few weeks once it's actually, it doesn't hurt your eyes looking at it. And that's jadeowlstudios.com. And also playuntamed.com. That's, the page specifically for the game. That, that's probably the more interesting page to look at. That's most of the social media that I do. I'm just too busy and too tired to spend time on lots of social media.
So what we'll do is we'll make sure that we put all the links in the show notes so that we have notes to show. The other thing is, Jeremy, is when the game is going to be launching, will you come back on and talk some more about it, please?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I would love to. I've definitely enjoyed myself. And I would love to talk about the game and with you a little bit more. Yeah, please.
Cool. Excellent. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, and thank you again for listening tonight. You can find us on our website, which is we'renotwizards.com. We're on Twitter, which is We're Not Wizards. We're on Facebook, which is We're Not Wizards. We're on Instagram. Guess what? It's We're Not Wizards. You can find us on our blog, which we do kind of previews and thought pieces, and we're always interested in people who are going to be writing things for us. So if you fancy stretching those writing muscles, then get in contact at magic@we'renotwizards.com, and you can get some stuff on our blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com. You can find us on places like YouTube. You can find us on places like Tumblr. I have no idea what Tumblr is. Apparently it's really, really funny, and there is some really funny, and there's also some really weird stuff on Tumblr as well, and we're joining all the weird stuff because that's what we do. If you are wanting to support us and fancy chucking us a buck, then Patreon.com/We're Not Wizards will find us. That helps us keep the lights on and also helps us to grow the show as well. We appreciate everybody who listens to us through the various kind of podcast places like Stitcher and Spreaker and Acast and Player FM and all these wonderful places. If you like us really much, then consider going to Apple Podcasts and dropping us a subscription there, because that helps us grow and helps get the name out there. Or stream us on Spotify, because that helps us as well. If you are going to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, don't give us a 10, because it makes us big-headed. But don't give us a 1, because it makes us cry, and I'm a very ugly crier. I'm not even nice at all. It's like looking like some water balloons got hit by a bus. That's how bad it is. But give us 5, because it's in the middle and it's average, and we're just a little bit average. But the person who's not been average is rather wonderful, they're rather fantastic, Mr. Jeremy Falger. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and I had a lot of fun talking to you. So, yeah.
Good. I appreciate you coming on. There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Jeremy?
No, definitely not. No, I have lots of magic cards, but still doesn't make me a wizard. No. That's
brilliant. You show. That's fantastic. That brings a tear to my eye, because you didn't do what everybody else does, which is to say, yeah, I am.
Oh.
So that you're now my new best friend. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it is goodbye from Jeremy. Say goodbye, Jeremy.
Bye-bye, guys. Thanks for listening.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll6s.com. And Jeremy's going to be coming back on, and he is definitely going to be telling us some more about about artwork and about card games and about chameleons and about Untamed in the beginning of next year. But until the next time, goodbye.
Oh no, it's the evil wizard!